This is Meadowbrook Magic, episode 5.
Fuck
Welcome
Jordan.
back. Fuck Jordan. Because,
Fuck me! You just agreed with me!
Okay.
I'm right!
yeah, I agree with you, but you're pissing me off. Okay, this is episode 5.
He's wrong.
When this card is overcosted,
Alright.
I'm going to build a deck around it, and I'm going to make
Can
Jordan
I
with it,
introduce
and
it?
it will
Can
be
I
killed.
introduce the topic?
First of all, you want to make a combo deck and try and beat me with
Jordan,
it?
I will! Oh, I will!
I love blue! I do this!
Oh, I'll put the spells! There will be
I
six-
would raid
there
your
will be
ass
spells,
with this
and
deck!
you wouldn't even notice all of the spells!
I know more discard cards!
Because I will put extras!
I'll wait.
You want to beat me in a
There's
blue-black
I
fight
will
off?
do it! Don't worry!
You
I
can't!
will do
I'm
it!
the control
I
combo
don't care!
player!
I don't care! I'm going to play, I'm going to learn it! I'm going to break standards with the overcosted
Oh, this is so
Jericho.
many bloopers.
I'm out. Okay, I'm Mike. That's Jordan. This
I'm
is Ashwin.
And this is the blooper reel.
We're keeping this in because we got to get right into this topic. We have been talking about this fucking card for like an hour now. It is, what the fuck is it called?
Revenge of Necromancy from You Make the Card 4. For those of you who don't understand, this is our third take and we're pissed. Because he's wrong.
No, Jordan knows what the fuck he's talking
Let me
about.
explain. You Make the Card 4 is the fourth time that Wizards of the Coast has run a session where the group of Magic players, basically the community, designs their own card. It's run by a number of polls on the daily MTG site. First they chose the card type, I believe, then the color, and blah, 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 and eventually gets to the point where a bunch of people, anyone can submit rule text, R&D looks through them, chooses the top 8, and then there was a round-robin face-off where people voted on which one they wanted, and it came down to the winner being Revenge of Necromancy. The card basically states, as an enchantment, whenever an opponent, keyword, an opponent discards a creature, you get a 2/2 black zombie. Whenever an opponent discards a land, you get a black added to your mana pool, and then anything else that is discarded from their hand, you get to draw a card. So, Slaughter Games isn't discard, it's exile.
And it doesn't have a mana cost yet.
It doesn't have a mana cost yet. So the argument that we've been talking about is what the mana cost should be on this card. It's a fun card. It's meant to be a build-around card. The idea behind...
Obviously it's meant to be.
The idea that behind it, when you can look up the article on Daily MTG, but the idea behind when the guy was designing the card is he wanted a card that made it to be more thoughtful when your opponent was discarding, or for you as the opponent, what you chose when you discard. Because usually it's a pretty simple solution. I have an extra land, I'm going to chuck my land. I can't play this card until 4 turns from now, I got pressure on me now, I'm going to discard this, I don't need this. Now you have to think, well, what is going to help me, what's going to be least detrimental to me to discard while being least beneficial to him to discard? Do I not want him to have a card? Do I not want to give him extra mana? Yada, yada, yada. So your whole perception of what to discard changes. Also what cards you're holding on to like keep around. Like if you know someone's running a Liliana the Veil and you're like, well, I'm going to hold on to this card to discard instead of playing this so I can keep my later card around. It's going to change up the thing and put a lot more thought on both your opponent and make discard a lot more interesting for you to run it. So now the discussion comes down to
What should it be costing?
what should it be costed? I say that if it's anything over 4, it won't be played, and to be really like fun and playable and useful, it needs to be 3. 1 is ridiculous. 2 could see modern play and possibly even legacy play, but I think 3 is a fair play for it to be in standard and not be broken or way too powerful. He's saying anything less than 5 is just broken and disgusting.
No, I think 4 and 5 should be where it is.
I'm saying 3 is probably the ideal cost for it. If you wanted
it should be 5. It looks like a 5 cost.
I think 2 costs would be a powerhouse card that could start seeing play into the older formats. I think 3.
I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be double black in this card.
Oh, I
because
think
when you look into it, it has the ability to add black.
Yeah, I think it
So
should
it's
be
kinda-
double black colorless.
Yeah,
double black colorless.
I think it should be 2 colorless, black. It's
That's-
probably aggressive enough.
That's what I'm
That'll
thinking.
probably see decks.
I agree that it should be 1 colorless, or 1 black.
You're saying,
But it's probably going to be 2 black.
I agree. I think it should be black
but
colorless,
from
but I
a
think
game design perspective, you don't want a 1 black this type of enchantment out there.
really, what are you going to
From
get
a
from
game
it?
You
design perspective.
see, the more I think about this card, like the less I like it, because
I really like it. But I just don't want to be too high that I'm never going to be able to play around it unless I'm building a real casual, real janky ass deck.
it's got to be an.
It's meant to be a janky card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's meant to be a janky card, but it should
It's
be a
like-
playable janky card. As a community, we came together to design a card that we think is going to be fun, playable, and that like we don't want to see as a 50-cent rare that no one ever gets to play.
I
or,
like
unless
50-cent rares that you can build around. I think those are worth more to the community than $15 rares that it's so hard to.
Well,
put
I'm not
get your
asking
hands
for
on
a
that take
15
over formats.
I'm not saying that it's going to be a $15 rare that takes over the format. I'm saying at black colorless, it could be maybe a $4 or $5 rare that's really fun to play around, and like, it's great. It's great. I don't think it's the kind of card too that you're going to want to play set in a deck. You're probably going to want 3 of.
You don't want to play set of this, of course.
No,
No.
right? And so,
Obvious.
and I think it could be a lot of
If
fun.
it's lower cost, then you might want to play set.
Here's my thing. You get no value out of it the turn it's played, or until you play another card to work with
That's
it.
why you build a deck around it.
You build a deck around it. So it's completely functionally useless in your deck until you play it and the turn after you play it, because you're probably going to want to play it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You
No,
need it-
actually, I don't even agree with that.
Well,
statement.
you might want to play
I
it.
would wait Liliana first, even if it's a 3 cost.
Well, alright, if Liliana the Veil's around, which she won't be in Standard much longer, and she's never going to be reprinted, let's face it.
Even modern, like you said.
But, like, yeah,
3 cost modern card.
if you want to talk about it in Modern, I think 3 is even going to be too high cost for this card to be even playable in Modern, but
It would be a janky-ass deck in modern for sure.
it'd be a real jank. There are a lot of powerful 1 and 2 drop discard cards
No,
in
I'm
Modern,
sure, yeah.
and you could probably make a really interesting deck around it, and
Be a lot of
but
fun.
I think if it wasn't too costed enchantment, it's going to be, you're going to try to stay alive in way too fast a format for way too long to start getting benefits way too later.
I also think not even it'd be too powerful. I think it'd be too unfun to make it a 3 cost for the other player. That like the net fun that you're getting out of this card is only for one person.
Well, the thing is, here's the deal.
Fair.
The what you get from it is that if you're, let's look at the 3 matchup. This is a combo deck. We're gonna assume it's pretty much played in more of a combo-y deck, or a control version of a deck that's using discard as its
Control
main form.
combo, yeah.
So
You
the 3 matchups that it's basically gonna face, or well, the 4th one is combo, but combo on combo always gets interesting. The 3 matchups are basically, it's which one everyone can shoot off first. Is aggro, mid range, and control. If it's facing control, it's a combo deck. It's already at a huge disadvantage, which means it needs to start to be able to protect itself. It won't be able to play this card on turn 3 if it's a 3 cost. It's gonna have to wait till turn 4 or 5.
But there's other things that the control deck might want to target before you even target this card.
No, because this is the card you're building around. The whole deck
like,
won't run off
But
without
you
this
still
card.
like the best things about control pieces are pieces that work without the central
Yeah.
piece even.
Yeah.
So Liliana Veil does that job. You might want to counter that card.
If I was a control deck and you're hitting me with you wanted to resolve a Liliana the Veil, like
That's a great card against a control deck.
I would love to hit it, but
You don't know.
but if it's reasonable in the format, you're gonna know what the deck is, and like
If I play like Stalker Veil, there's 2 cards where you might want to.
fair, but I still think control is gonna be, because again, even if you then resolve this card, which is gonna be hard to resolve on turn 3
It
against
will be
control.
tough to resolve. You're right.
Yes, you now have to resolve other cards around it to get value. And yes, if you resolve any of those discard cards and then get all that value from it, you're going to blow control out of the water. But again, you're being combo-licious, and it's real hard against control to be combo-licious. So let's just face it that against control,
Well, combo
It's a
decks
ba-
aren't good against control anyway.
yeah, it's
They're
a bad
supposed to lose
match.
with-
Yeah, it's a bad matchup, right? Well, here's the thing: it becomes an impossible matchup if you push that enchantment past 3. And but we'll say combo loses to control. All right, you're now going against the mid-range, the aggro deck. You have to get your combo off, or at least use your discard control before they kill you. Which means you need to start taking the game back from them around turns 4
Turn
and
5. I say turn 5 is
5 at the latest. Yeah, right. You were playing this turn 3. You're not reaping value from it
I
until
don't know. I
turn
don't know
4.
if I was playing against aggro, I probably wouldn't play this turn 3.
You try and play more defensively, and then
I would have counter spells and kill spells for
Yeah.
early,
right.
and
so
then turn 3 this.
yeah, but then that's the thing. Aggro runs out their hand so fast that then this card is functionally dead.
I don't think so. I think you get so much more value out of it even if you
Because you force them to keep playing cards out of their hand.
they play cards in hand. All right, kill, Mana Leak, whatever, blah blah, whatever equivalent of that. Essence Scatter, whatever, what have you.
But
then-
it just sounds like you're better off playing.
And then turn 4, they run out of gas and they need to finish it. You mind route them.
Yeah.
You play
But
before
they
you
have-
you play it before you.
But the thing is, when
But
you
then
mind
there's
route,
no
you
point-
don't choose. They choose when to discard. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, maybe I can get, maybe I could draw a card, or maybe I can You know,
Again,
the opponent
The
has the
opponent
choice.
has the choice.
But
And that's
no,
another
and it
thing.
makes it
You're
shit.
just
I
saying,
don't
why
like-
don't you run a control deck without this card? This card, and then we're saying this as a 3-drop. There's no point. You're saying that this card doesn't do anything against the aggro matchup. You might as well run a straight up control at a 3-drop. Now we're talking mid range, where this card would probably do the best. They're still not going to have that many cards in their hand by the time that you start to take over, and then still.
Do you see what I mean by when it's saying you don't have to play this card at the earliest possible time? In fact, you may not even want to.
Yeah, but the way you're stating it is like I would just keep playing other control
Well,
elements
for
until I
aggro,
work
you want
into
them
it.
to run out of gas before you start even comboing.
But
on
why
them.
wouldn't you
But
want to play this
you
card
can't
early?
combo once they're out of gas with this card. You might as well just play a bomb.
I don't know if I would. What if you play this card and then play a discard card, or do the Whispering?
But they
Madness
don't.
card?
They have no cards left in hand. Like, so you're saying that this card is functioning. The only way that this card is good against aggro is the sooner you get it out. Like, ideally, some
So you're
turn.
saying play it, defend early, play it as soon as possible, mind run the shit out of them.
Otherwise, this card, like, you might as well just run a normal control deck because it does nothing. Like, you get no value from playing this card.
Because
ever.
they're out of gas anyway?
Yeah. And then, so you need to play it early. So, like, if you drop this turn 2 with some sort of, like, Arbor Elf into, Overgrown Tomb, Arbor Elf, then whatever other black source turn 2, and then Arbor Elf tap all 3, get this out turn 2, you can start
That's
to...
value, man.
Yeah, then you mind rot them, but they already have, like, a bunch of their turn 3 drop good creatures out, but now you have chump blockers, and you know against a strong aggro deck that a 2/2 zombie is going to lose to a lot of their...
Wait, but like, let's say they're like,
but
okay,
at
I
least
don't want to.
keeping you live.
Let's say they don't want to give you chump blockers; they give you mana. You're gonna have other discard cards in your hand.
Yeah.
You're gonna have creatures in your hand.
Well,
You're gonna have,
but that's the thing. The decision's on them how they want to roll.
but they don't know what's in your hand, and they're losing cards out of it.
Yeah. But so now that's why it's a good card because it makes it a fun interactive thing. So the aggro player really has to consider how he wants to run this.
Sure.
So I think it'll make interesting reactions with each other. Whereas if it's higher cost than that, you'll never get to see it in play, and you'll never get there. And then another thing is, so against mid range and like reanimator decks, most of them are going to want to be discarding and looting for by turn 3 or 4. So is using this as a sideboard card or even against Lot Troll and stuff, which are all early cards, like they get their first 2 or 3 turns to do all that and have their fun, and then you come in and stop the shenanigans later. But even then, I'd give you a 2/2 zombie to discard an Angel of Serenity that I'm just going to use to exile it later. It's not that big of a deal.
I just don't see where I still think it'd be way too powerful to say like a turn 5 reckless return for 3, get this much mana, this many creatures, they lose 3 cards, lose 3 life.
Rakdos returns are
Or Sire Insanity turn 6, followed by like
but
3 other plays.
Yeah,
but I mean,
Insanity's
if
already
you're
played as a
using-
bomb. He's going to win you
Right,
games either way.
Like at this turn 3, and then like 2 other maybe like multi-purpose cards, or even cards that don't even have to do with discard, and then you Sire Insanity. There's no way you lose.
Yeah.
And that's way too early because then you could be playing your.
So you're
4
talking if
drops
the
and 5
Sign of
drops and Sire
Insanity is
Insanity.
in the format where he is as a 6-drop bomb that you have to still survive to get to play. Rakdos, you're talking about like
Is
Is
turn
this
5
card
is-
broken, or is it just helping already incredibly powerful cards? Like, there's a lot of cards that can support already and powerful cards.
Well, this card wouldn't be broken without already powerful cards, right? Like,
I mean,
it has to.
like,
This card is not.
here-
we already
we just
agreed that it's not
we just
functional by
discussing
itself.
this, that, like, Lightning Bolt is considered one of the most fair and, like, reasonable burn spells.
I
And
don't-
so is
I don't-
Doomblade.
I
You
think
can't
Doomblade
argue
is.
that.
I don't know if Lightning Bolt, but I think Shock and Doomblade are the same quality.
I think Doomblade and Lightning Bolt, and this has been discussed on the MTG show by Luis Scott Vargas, by anyone, they're considered like the balancing cards. The
I think
Doomblade
Doomblade
and
and
Lightning
Shock
Bolt
are.
were like we'll never see them in their current meta because of Snapcaster. Is it because Doomblade and Lightning Bolt are broken? No, it's because Snapcaster's just a really powerful card. So like saying that, like it's not saying that this enchantment at 3 costs.
It would
Is
be
broken.
I think it would be really, really, really powerful.
It would be powerful. I think there
I
would
think
be
it'd be-
decks, but I don't think it would be even the number 1 deck. And even if it was, I think there would be a number of other competitive decks around it.
I'm not, but I'm saying like I don't want this card to be even the top 10 deck.
I think if
I-
we
I-
design a card, there's no reason why. I don't think there's any harm to it being a top 10 deck.
I don't
card.
think this is the type of deck that you. I want this. This type of card is made for players that want to try to break it. That want to try to find like the perfect amount of cards.
I'm saying you're still going to have to do a lot of work if you want to do a massive combo and break it. Otherwise, 3-drop leaves it early enough that you can use it in kind of a control deck where you're using discards.
I don't think it's the type of card that you want to put in like so many different decks that has like such powerful cards.
I don't think you're going to be getting it out of so many different decks. I think you could get 2 decks where you use it as a control as a control piece to your control deck.
I really think it should be a build-around card that is more casual friendly. I don't even think from a design perspective you want it.
I think the same thing. I think this is more of a casual.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying if you want it to be super casual, yeah, make it 5-drop. If you ever wanted to see any play in any competitive format,
well, obviously the more aggressive it is, the more it's going to see.
But I'm saying the only time you're going to get the full value out of this card is that you have discard cards where you have the choice. If the opponent has the choice, that's where you don't.
And most of those discard cards where you have the choice, and the best ones are all at 1 and 2 drop, which should come in after this card would already be played, which means you're. And what the advantage to that is, it's usually in later games, Duress, Inquisition, and Kozlak.
They're useless.
They're bad top decks.
Yeah. But now that
makes them slightly better. So yeah, having them as a turn 3 enchantment's not the end of the world. And you know what? Even as a turn 3 enchantment, you might see this in the Liliana Spectre decks and all those ones where you see Liliana's Crest. I still think it's going to still be mostly a casual card at 3 enchantment, a casual card that excites a lot of players, and I still think in Standard at the time, depending on what in there, and only if there are tools for it, could end up in the top 10, and I don't think it'll ever make it into Modern or Legacy at 3. I don't think it'll ever make it in there unless it's 2-costed, and it's going to be lots of fun. I mean, think about Pyro Chief's Ascension as a 1-costed enchantment that just blows up in like 1 or 2 turns. That gets ridiculous, but my opinion is I think 3-costed would make a very strong enchantment. You're saying, and basically what you're arguing is make it 5-costed so it's so casual that it's only for fun and that it's never going to see competitive play. And I say why bother making a card for the entire community?
I think it should be a build-around card. I don't think it should be like, I don't think it's the type of card that should be like, oh, well, I need to have this card in my control deck because I can just use this like Rakdos Return thing because it's already good itself. Siren Insanity is already good by itself. Like, using these cards that work fine by themselves, and I have this extra piece that just takes it over the top.
But then you're also taking out extra pieces that keep you alive until that point.
So. I see this card more of as like a more fun, janky, casually friendly build-around card.
Well, you forget that there is a huge part of the community that are competitive players, and they wanted the card that they designed.
So I think a good medium between like the 6-drop Possibility Storm card versus like the 2-drop fuck your face card. Like I think 4 is fine.
4 is going to be a really weak card for competitive play.
It'll be a card
I think 3 is fair and 2 would be a powerhouse. I think 2 would be a powerhouse.
I think 3 is fair, but I
think it will be printed 4.
To be a 4. Yeah,
I expect it to be a 4, but I think 3 would be a reasonable cost, and 2 would make it a powerhouse like the next Snapcast or something this time, possibly depending on who could do what with Standard and Modern Legacy with it, and what tools were around it in Standard.
I don't see Modern Legacy even. 1 in this card, maybe even 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's so many good.
But I'm saying it would blow up in Standard.
They would blow up, and then 2-drop, and
you don't play anything in Modern and Legacy like an enchantment that doesn't do anything for you in a format that's so fast until you can play it on turn 3 and get it at turn 4 is like, well, you're dead.
It's just like it really is a build around card because most of the abilities, like when you
Tron's at that point is already playing Emrakul on your ass.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I want this to be a casual build-around card.
Yeah. I still want to just float around in competitive play every once in a while.
If it was competitive play, and I'm sure we'll find people
the type of card this is never going to see competitive play unless it's aggressively costed.
But there are so many cards that are enchantments that are just not that good that are costed at so much higher.
Yeah, and they frustrated me. That's one of my biggest problems with why I wanted to land over an enchantment is because I think when they're enchantments, because they're permanent effects, people tend to, like, especially in R&D, tend to overcost them because they don't want ridiculous things going on.
Yeah.
And then we never get to really play with these cards unless for that one crazy guy in your play group that gets to do these really weird things sometimes.
But that's what these cards are designed for those people to love.
But this is a card for the entire community, not for, like, this small sliver of people who want to try and break the weirdest community.
I think one of the biggest parts of Magic is to have these type of cards exist. And then we're like people like you, dude.
Well, yeah, but even then, that's why I love Blood Chief Ascension, which is a 1-cost enchantment. Pyro Chief's Ascension, Luminarch's Ascension, or whatever. All these really
Luminarch's Ascension is pretty straightforward. Younger part of the community say, "Oh, I can make like a cool Curses deck with this card."
Yeah.
Or something like a bunch of cheap
That'd be
cards.
cool if it was actually a curse and you targeted one per opponent. But anyway,
Right, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I think we can all agree to disagree on this.
But
move on.
I think maybe it's I think it's the philosophy. Like, fundamentally, is that I think like the way Magic appeals is to like a large, or maybe like a more casual community, and I think you want to see more like competitive tournament play with every card.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every card, but
a
at
good
least
portion of
float
cards.
up in there somewhere. I'm not saying it end up in every.
So you want a good portion of rares that have competitive tournament viability.
Yeah.
I think they should be fun.
Yeah. Okay.
And casual. Okay. But there should be like a sliver card should be very strong, very high power level, but not every card should be equal power.
I just think that this card brings so many interesting interactions between you and your opponent because it makes thinking on both sides, and I think that's the kind of thing that we want to see through all levels, including up to competitive Magic.
That's what Magic is about.
And I think Mark Rosewater has commented that he wants more of those kind of interactions. And if you want to put that into competitive play, make a card like this 3-costed and enjoy the standard format that it's going to make. And then if there becomes a real problem, make enchantment hate cards, and you can always figure out a card to go around it. Yeah. But, alright, so our next topic would be... Mike?
I mean, we were talking a little bit about Siren Sanity before, which is like a new...
Yeah.
It's a new Dragon's Maze card, and Jordan hates it.
Jordan doesn't like it.
I'm not crazy about it either.
When I first saw the card, I saw a 6-drop that empties my hand. First of all, 6-drop screams control or later game play to me, which means it's the card that's
really mid-range.
Yeah.
I'd say
it is a mid-range card, but as a 6-drop, you want it. It feels like it should be in a later thing, but later decks. Decks that play for a later game style usually are the ones that want the card advantage and not to empty out their hand. So I think a very wise man who plays a lot of formats and has played forever, almost since the beginning of the game at my card shop back at college, said a very good thing. So when I saw the card initially, I didn't like it, but he said, because he initially was with me when it was spoiled, that because 2 people were arguing about it, that the card would not be very good, and then we all know that it jumped up in price. It was played in John. It's been played. He stated it that this is the kind of card that's going to fluctuate in price a lot because it's going to be one of those cards that takes the meta by storm. It pops up in a tournament, blows it out because no one's expecting it. People start to build around it, realize what's going on. It fades off the map, it disappears, and then when people forget about it, it comes up and blows up again.
But that's like any good card in Standard essentially does that.
I mean, a lot of them will stay in there forever.
Like, you have... Like, in a tier of cards, you have, like, the Jason Mind Sculptors, Tarmogoyfs, and you have, like, the Snapcasters and that, and this is, like, the 3rd tier cards.
I think it's 4th tier almost. 3rd tier, above that, I would, like, an Arbor Elf and stuff, but they're not as valued because they're, like, commons and stuff, but it's a 4... Like, when the meta's not ready for it, boom, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, this card exists, and then they get around it and stuff. So
it's tough playing around this
card. I think, and going back to our regular argument, I think Revenge of Necromancy could be one of those cards at 3-costed, but I'm going to end my argument there. But you think it's a really good card, and I could see if you cheat it out as a mid-range deck and blow out your hand really early by turn 4 or 5, and you get this out on turn 5, maybe 6. As it exists
right now, you have a lot of, like, really early game plays, and then you could finish with this card.
And yes, it's a do or die for Control. Control either basically counters it, removes it the turn it comes into play, or removes it before they end their next turn or they die. Which I think is really great. But there are 2 Control decks in the entire format. And yes, they've gotten better with Dragon Maze, but they're not.
This card effectively ends a lot of Control strategies.
But it's also... It
puts the pressure.
I think the 2 best decks in the format that are competing against each other are Jund and Junk Reanimator. Mm-hmm. This is a Jund card that does well in Jund that helps Junk Reanimator. This card will kill... The Junk Reanimator will, excuse my language, jizz all over you in great gratitude when you play this against them. Yes, you'll sideboard it out, but it's a really bad card to get in your first match against them, and you have to leave it sitting in your hand. You can't play it. Which means you have a functionally dead card in your hand.
I don't know if that's true.
That's the deck as Jund that you're looking to be. It's Junk Reanimator. It's the next powerhouse in the format. So I don't think that adding it into your deck list is a good decision, because those are the 2 powerhouses that you're looking to be.
Now you're talking about playing the meta. I'm talking about
this card is a good card. This card's all about playing the meta. Like, it's good card situationally depending on what the meta is, and it's not good in the current meta.
I think it is great in the current meta, because you're effectively...
Here's what I can see. I see it as a $2 sideboard card against Control for Jund.
That's exactly.
That's where I see it. And when it first came out as a $7 card that got shoved in the main list of Jund,
cards are always inflated when they first came out.
Yes, I tried to get rid of mine as soon as possible, and I still have one floating around, and I'm like, fuck me.
I think it'll be a $4 or $5 card that's essentially like almost a stable in Jund. It's very, very strong in Jund.
I don't think so.
It doesn't do a lot for you. It's just a 6/4 beater. I mean, most aggro decks are going to run out their hand, and by the time you're getting to 6 mana, you've already taken the game over from them, and those are your biggest ones. And then a lot of the other... because once Jund will roll over a lot of those decks, and so this card doesn't help them get to the rolling over point. And then the only other deck it has to worry about is basically, like I said, Junk Reanimator. This card only helps them. And yes, against Wolf Run Bait, it's a big deal. It hurts Wolf Run Bait a lot. But you know what? Wolf Run Bait has a ton of removal for it, and Wolf Run Bait gains so much life, and they have so much card advantage that they'll eventually get rid of this card. They'll have enough life to stabilize, and they'll get back to it. Yes, so I agree, it's a problem for Wolf Run Bait. Again, sideboard. Sideboard against Esper Control. Sideboard against American Flag.
I think you almost always play this turn 4, turn 5, right?
Yeah, and so...
pretty much, like, I mean, unless you're playing a turn 4, turn 5.
And Wolf Run Bait's not looking
it's usually
to do...
like a 2 of.
Yeah, but Wolf Run Bait is going to deal with it. It's going to get dealt with in Wolf Run Bait.
I mean, even in an aggro deck, you're running this turn 5, turn 4. I mean, you effectively just won.
Aggro decks already has no hand. Like if you got into, like we just said, you're looking to take control over from turn 5. If you're getting this down in turn 5, you're already going to win regardless.
Right, so you boarding your Thragtusk.
Yeah, so you take
already in there, yeah.
And yeah, so Thragtusk is a better option against aggro than this, which is already running Jund. This doesn't give you much advantage to anything except for Wolf Run Bait, Esper Control, and American Flash, which is it's a sideboard card. It doesn't give you anything.
I think I would start my deck with this card, like 2 of. I think that's a fair
for what decks? What decks are you going to run onto in the meta? What decks in general are like... this card does well against control and some combo-y decks and cards that like card advantage, which aren't very popular in the meta.
But there's a reason that's not popular in the meta. It's because so let's say you take this card out, then you open the floodgates for those decks.
Those decks have been low in the meta since. In fact, they're finally coming back into the meta thanks to Dragon Maze. They've only been getting stronger thanks to Dragon Maze because of a lot of cards.
Esper Control was one of the best decks in the meta prior to Dragon's Maze. It's like not the second best deck.
I wouldn't say it was popular in the meta. I want to say
the
two best decks since Return to Ravnica has been around have been unconditionally Junk Reanimator and Jund. Those two decks have been
Junk Reanimator actually took a little bit of a hit in Gatecrash. Like actually a big hit. It wasn't really played.
Yeah, people still held on to the deck because they had it. Yes, it wasn't as strong, but it was still strong. Yes, so Esper Control may have come up, and if we're talking about yes. But it's a sideboard card. It literally only helps you against 3 decks in the entire format.
I could actually see this card being played in like a Faithless Rites deck too.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I think it was great. Like that's where I think this card has a great suit for, and I've thought about this before.
In a Faithless Rites deck,
Reanimator decks and any Rites deck, this would be great. Splash Rites, get your Faithless, get it out. Drop out, discard your whole hand, and just keep going.
And then they have no answers to you.
And keep blowing.
And it's perfect. And those decks are already mid-range decks.
Yeah, just keep going. This is a perfect fit for that. So yes,
that's
might
why
help
you. This card is a good card.
It has a very niche deck for it. There are a lot of decks that.
I don't think development even meant for Unburial Rites to be that big of a deck.
No, I don't think so, but it happened.
You know what I mean? It happened, and I don't know if they expected it.
I don't think it's like the end of the world. I think the Rites deck is interesting.
It's interesting. It's kind of like Delver. They don't expect Delver to take over.
But Delver was frustrating, whereas Rites is interesting. I like it. I like what's going on with it.
I think sometimes I feel like
I hate playing against it sometimes.
Thragtusk is just a bit pushed too far, which ruins Rites.
The thing is with Rites is the problem with Thragtusk is it's just so much an annoying card, whereas there's so many cool other flavorful creatures and like
that you wish was played with the 5 slot
that could have been played in the right. You're playing Rites, so you could play a lot of like bigger creatures even. But the problem is like, why bother when you have a Thragtusk? And Thragtusk makes that deck too consistent because even if you don't Rites, you can always just play the Thragtusk.
Because the Rites is just a 4 of.
Yeah.
And the Mulch and the Grizzly Salvage always give you equal card advantage.
Yeah. So
it just sifts through for you and increases your hand size.
So I think Rites is a interesting deck. Thragtusk makes it a little pushy. I think Siren fits really well into that deck. So yes, there happens to be a deck where it fits really well. And again, Rites is going to rotate soon. Otherwise, outside of that niche Reanimator fit deck where you need to discard your hand, its best spot is in the sideboard for mid-range decks against control decks. It's a sideboard.
Do you think a card that has to be an auto-included sideboard is a bad card?
No, But I don't think it's as great as a lot of people are. So I've noticed that there's a big divide in the community. A lot of people are saying it's terrible, and a lot of people are saying hyping it like it's fucking the next thing. It's the next. Well, no one's saying it's the next Snapcaster, but they're hyping it like it's fucking amazing.
Like it's a pseudo Titan.
Yeah, and it's not. It's a sideboard card. Let's be real. It's a sideboard card, and its price is going to reflect.
I don't think it's gonna. I think there could be a meta where this card's really shines.
There's a lot of rares that there could be a meta where it's really worth it, and I think you need to respect that. And that's where the best part of this card is teaching people to watch your meta and look for where cards need to come into play.
Mm-hmm.
So
you really don't think that a normal mid-range deck would not want a 2 of this card?
It doesn't. It's only a 6/4 body that doesn't do a lot for you unless you're playing control.
But you don't
In
if
fact,
it's a 2 of, you don't always have to play it if it's a 2 of.
Yeah.
If you have it.
But like the thing is,
you
most of the time it's gonna hurt you because you're gonna have more steam in your hand than you are against aggro.
Not in the mid-range. It's against where you want to end.
And
dump out your hand.
Mid-range on mid-range, you get a 6/4 body, and now you're both running with main hands and you're top boarding. So it's basically whoever has bigger 5 drops and
but
whatever.
You get to choose when you play this card.
Yes, you get to choose, but
So
But then you're saying that you're in a lot of matchups you're just gonna want to hold on to, and like a good card you're not gonna want to hold on to a lot of times. You're saying like, why not just sideboard it for the few decks that it's good against? It's good against control and it's good against a few other decks, and it's really bad against a couple other decks, which means it's perfect sideboard card, except in Rights where I think it has a real niche spot. Like Black-Red Rights could be cool. Otherwise, it is a great mid-range sideboard card. I don't think it's got much more to it than
I
that.
think it's a good mid-range card.
I wouldn't go that far. And if there were like 4 control decks in the meta and it was going crazy or a bunch of combo decks,
the reason there isn't 4 control decks in the meta is because this card is a major point.
No, the reason there isn't 4 control decks in the meta is because Esper and American got it covered. American's not even true control because it's a much faster game.
The current American Flash is pretty much control right now.
It's pretty controlling, but it's a much faster version of control with lower drop creatures.
2 Snapcasters and Planeswalkers and spells. That's
it's pretty controlling. Well, the American Flash that I'm normally seeing is
you're talking about Resto Angel, Snapcaster, each other a whole bunch of times.
But I still wouldn't even venture. I don't think that you'd have a lot of other control decks. I mean, bug control could exist, but I don't think Siren of Sanity is the one stopping that. I'm just thinking that because if you want to play control, Esper and American control are better control ones right now. And it's got a 4 butt. It's real prone to removal.
Yeah. But how are you going to remove its sorcery? You can't.
You have
the best removal right now. Like some of the most played removal is sorcery speed.
Well, I mean, Dragon Mage is changing that.
War Leader's Helix.
War Leader Helix is like meant to blow that fucking card's ass off. It's literally.
I mean, there are cards that balance it, but Mizium Mortar is not going to touch it. And that's what mid-range decks are really worried about Mizium Mortars.
Mizium Mortars can hit that bastard
on
their turn.
Just comes to hand immediately.
No, it just end step. So you kill it with Mizium Mortars that turn.
It's sorcery speed.
Yeah. You play it, right? You pass the turn. They draw their card. They Mizium Mortar.
They have to top deck that card.
No. Because they didn't counter it. So they didn't have a counter spell in their hand. They didn't have any form of instant speed removal. And then they didn't have Mizium Mortar. Then you know what? They were screwed to begin with because they had no removal and no counter spells. They were already losing.
Both players discard their hand at each drop.
End step.
Oh, both players? I thought it was you discarding your hand.
No, it's both.
Okay.
So you can't. You can only get it with instant speed. Sorcery speed removal is fucked.
So entirely all of your creatures are immune to sorcery speed removal, essentially. So your board wipes can't really hit you.
I still think it does the most work against control. So you're like, what you're saying basically is you're good against control.
It's really good against control.
Yeah, but I don't think
it's a perfect card against control.
I don't think it does much more other than a sideboard card in those situations.
A lot of mid-range decks, some of them will run Mizium Mortars. That's not a...
a lot of... But, then what's the point? You going top deck mode against 2 mid-range decks is just who's going to top deck better.
So you wouldn't play it unless... So that's why you run 2 of, and you play when you're ahead on board.
If you're ahead on board in the mid-range matchup, unless you're, down a lot in card advantage, there are just so many other cards I'd rather have in the main list. It's so situational in that mid-range on mid-range. It doesn't... what I'm saying is it doesn't help you establish a better board state against that mid-range deck.
I think it does.
No, because you drop your 6/4 body. That is, like we said, it can be top decked for a lot of removal. You both discard your hands. They still had the better board state, right? And now you're both in top deck mode. Let's say you put a 6/4, but just putting that 6/4 body down evens out your
Board.
Your board.
You pretty much would win then.
Well, you both have even boards, and then it comes down to whoever tops decks. That's putting a lot of luck into the. Unless you're a really lucky player, I don't see why you'd want to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my opinion.
I
think this
deck
card.
list again. I still think it's a.
I
think we're pretty close to where closer than we think we are.
Yeah,
How we think about this card.
I just feel like I would never main 60. I think this is meant for 15.
I think it's a 2 of. So we're between 2 and.
I think it's a perfect 2 of in your sideboard. I think this card can do so much work in those few matchups, and then it's so good in the sideboard. But main board, it just feels so dead sometimes.
It's still a fine. It's not always it's never a blank.
I disagree. I feel it blanks a decent number of times.
I don't think it even blanks against aggro. 6/4 with a body for 6 is still fine.
You drop a 6/4. Yeah.
Turn 5, it's
But I could drop a 6/6 on turn 5 that does other things.
But I'm saying you have to have that card ready for other decks in the meta.
There's 3 decks,
And
combo
mid-range.
decks, and then 2. It doesn't. I don't think it really is an advantage in mid range.
I think it's a huge advantage in mid range because they play a lot of sorcery speed removal.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, then they could play that against you too. I mean,
So that's why. So if they play that against you too, that means that card is good.
It doesn't help you because then you lose all your sorcery speed removal that you could use to be killing off and establishing your board state.
It's balanced enough where it's not gonna.
I will agree, it's a real balance card.
It's really well balanced.
If you said it had a 6/6 but it was a 6/6, I think it would be. That
would be a Snapcaster level.
I don't know. I don't think it'd be Snapcaster level.
Actually, no, maybe.
I would agree with you because then it would be big enough that it can keep itself alive and start beating people in the face and doing its work. But with a 4 butt, it's really easy just to double block and kill that motherfucker. And it's prone to Thragtusk, which you're saying is in mid range, and so you block. You're now in top deck mode. You can't swing at that. You block with their Thragtusk. They still have a 3/3. They established a better board state than
honestly,
you.
when I think it's I wouldn't think to ever attack with him. He's made to have his effect.
He's an enchantment. I'd rather have him as an enchantment.
But you could choose to attack. Let's say you don't want that effect anymore.
Well, I don't want a 6-cost enchantment that does that.
Let's say you're like, oh well, I need to draw cards now. Why don't I start swinging with them? That's great. He gives you options.
I mean, a 6-cost enchantment is not this effect is not very good. Not being able to attack with them is a huge disadvantage.
Let's say your opponent's thinking, all right, I want to start drawing cards to beat this motherfucker out. You can keep swinging it with him, and it'll be like, well, I'll take card disadvantage to get this guy out, so I can start being in better top deck mode to draw something to wipe them out.
What a card I was surprised, which was underrated a lot, was Rurik Thor.
Rurik Thor it's a good card.
I think it's on the same level as Siren of Insanity, and it does a lot of the things you want it to do, and yet it doesn't
it fits well in a Gruul aggro deck, but it's costly for a Gruul.
I think it does well in mid-range deck too, because it's a 6/6 body that can block everything you need to block, and it doesn't tap to attack. It's attacking when it needs to, and when your opponent deals with it, they take 6 to the face. I honestly think you should, if you want.
Does it have haste?
No, it doesn't have haste. Neither does Siren. I think
the Siren affects immediately.
Siren does affect immediately, but I think
so it's removable.
I would much rather put 2 of these in my main board and put Siren, and I would switch the 2 of them out depending on the man. Actually, against control, having both of these in there, devastating. Absolutely devastating. Not only do you have to discard your whole hand to start removing either one of the 2, if they're both on the board state, you're taking 6.
But you gotta cut to add. I don't know.
You do have to cut to add. I don't know the deck list for John well enough,
right,
but I think Rurik Thar is underrated. A lot of people say he doesn't have ace, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't affect the board state. I'm like, you deal with him, you take 6 to the face. That's a big light swing.
Only when you deal damage to him?
Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you take 6 to the face.
Isn't it 3?
It's 6. It's 6. It is a 6/6/6 card. It is a 6/6 that costs 6 that does 6. It will do 6 damage to an opponent before it leaves that battlefield at some point.
I don't know.
I like him.
Is it legendary?
It is legendary.
Oh,
It's
So
legendary.
he's like
But you never want more 2 on the board. You're never going to have 2 Sirens of Insanity on the board if you're running them as a 2-0.
yeah. But,
And then that's the best part. Oh, did you just kill my dude? He works well with the new legend rule. It's just something we should talk about too, the new rulings. But you just dealt with him. Oh, guess what? I had another in my hand. Get ready to take 6 more.
Yeah.
get fucked.
I just feel like there's.
He's not Obazet, but
Yeah.
he fits in the Jund deck well. I think he does what he wants.
In the Jund deck, he does fit.
Fine, at least throw him in your sideboard.
it also hurts your removal ability too.
Again, like you say, you put
and Mizium Mortars. And
you put them in when you need to. But like if you're playing your Abrupt Decay and your Mizium Mortars are much cheaper and meant to deal with earlier threats and stuff. Like they're not gonna hit you're not gonna hit most of the control deck thing.
Even.
Yeah, but the thing is,
you're giving up a lot.
Are you really? Because you now have a 6/6 beater on the face, and now you're just stocking your removal, and they're the one who has to deal with your guy first. Unless they drop a huge bomb, but there's not many bombs that can deal with a 6/6.
I agree with you that he is underrated, but I think he feels more like a limited bomb to me than a standard.
I mean, he's a blowout and limited.
That's what I'm saying.
A 6/6 for 6 and limited is a blowout no matter what. Start attaching effects to him.
Right? Yeah, no, I played against this guy in limited. You automatically win if he's on the board for 2 turns. You pretty much win.
If he's on the board, if he resolves, you win in limited.
I mean, we might see him. Dragon's Maze is fairly new. It's slowing down the format a little bit. And maybe
he fits in Jund well.
Maybe
I'm over inside of it.
I'm gonna look up this deck list. I don't know. I just can't see it.
I feel it. But anyways, so what we were talking about too is for those of you who don't know, and I believe the rules act July 1st, right? Is that when
somewhere around that?
Sometime in the near future, we will be seeing that the rules have changed. The legendary rule has changed, and the uniqueness for Planeswalker. Basically.
Well, I mean, we'll get to. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll get to the legend rule. We'll have the exact rulings up.
I know the exact rulings.
We're gonna take a quick break.
Take a quick break.
Breaks are for bitches.
We're taking a quick break.
Take a quick break. Yeah.
All right. So we're back from the break. It's been a rough break. I lost my leg in a revenge to necromancy argument.
All right, now we actually have to do it.
All right, not funny. Anyways, so like we said, the last topic of the night will be the rules changes that will be effective sometime in this summer that I don't like, Ashwin likes, Mike, I don't know.
I like
fuck all of them.
All right, well, let's start. The changes are effective July 13th, and they're effective on Magic Online July 24th. The first one is a legend rule.
Well, we can explain this. It's the same thing for the Planeswalker uniqueness rule, which is the next change.
As far as the legend rule goes, anytime 2 or more legendary permanents with the same name are controlled by a player, that player chooses one of them, and the rest is put in their owner's graveyards as a state-based action.
So basically, the legendary rule only takes side of your battlefield. So both you and your opponent can control the same legendary creature. Reasons for this change is they didn't want this whole using clones as kill cards for legendaries. They didn't want that legendaries don't do anything except for kill each other, and just they wanted legendaries to be in play with each other more. I don't really like it. It's not as flavorful. How can you have 2 creatures?
No, the flavor is screwed up, and I don't think anybody can say that it's a flavor gain from it. Yeah, it's definitely a net flavor
And also,
loss.
I feel it's a simplification of the rules, which makes it easier for new players. And I feel like every time we get rule change, like changing how damaging stacks and everything, it's simplifying for new players. Which, as a new player coming in, I definitely appreciated having simpler rules for some of the things. As I get back, I'm like, oh, this change on the damage stack could have been really interesting to abuse back in the day, or I don't really like them. But I don't like the loss in flavor. I don't like the ability of losing clones to kill legendary creatures, because there are some really stubborn legendary creatures that are really hard. Sigarda, for those of you who play Commander, there's a number of hexproof legendary generals. Geist. That, cloning is a legitimate method to kill. And yes, it's not very blue or flavorful or make any sense that,
that's definitely a net gain for that. The fact that blue does not want to destroy.
Yeah.
Blue is not a destroy type of, and the fact that these clones kill the most epic, most recognizable creatures of magic.
I feel like you could have changed the
frustrating.
ruling that the clones have clones enter the thing and they copy the card with everything except for they have this is a clone of whatever, and then you could have 2 legendary creatures at the same time because that would be flavorful. They don't kill.
That's clunky. Too complex.
It's clunky. It's complex.
It's not. Yes. It's making rules for the sake of you're sacrificing conciseness.
There's just some things we're losing in the gameplay. I mean, they're going to say you're going to get a lot more interactions in gameplay, but there's a lot less things you have to think about now when you put out your legendary. You don't have to worry about them killing it off. And so with Planeswalkers 2, now both you and your opponent can own a Jace Planeswalker, so they can have Mind Sculpt, and you can have Jace Architect the Thought on the battlefield. And what I really don't like is you get to choose which one of yours gets buried. So, for instance,
you can play do 2 Planeswalker effects.
So if you play Chandra Narla and you use her abilities, and then the next turn you use her -2 ability and bring her really low, you can then play
get the counter reset.
Play the next Chandra, like a Chandra Blaze, and then choose the Chandra Narla to go to the graveyard.
Reset your counters.
Yeah.
+1.
Or if they pacify, which was a huge thing, a lot of legendary creatures would get pacified and just sit there. Now you can just play your other legendary creature and blow out that one, which it's I get it. They don't want legendary cards and Planeswalkers sitting in their hand. You want them to be played. But at the same time, there's a reason they're legendary, and there's a reason why they're Planeswalkers, because they're really powerful. And okay, yeah, Tibble, I got you.
No, not even. A lot of Planeswalkers, they're more flavorful than powerful, I'd say.
Planeswalkers left unchecked are a problem.
Right, but that's why, they have their checks, right? Like, they have...
the checks is the other player now diverts most of their attention onto the Planeswalker, or is like, wow, I'm aggro, and now I guess I'm just going to try and really kill you or lose.
So my first major opinion about this is that I don't think it's going to affect the majority, the overwhelming 99% of the gameplay that people will have. It will most likely, clones aren't that big in very popular formats.
Commander is going to get really thrown on his head.
I think this is a huge benefit to Commander.
Well, yeah, 2 people can play with the same general, or you can play a legendary creature from your deck, and someone else, even if someone else has it as a general. Yeah, but clones are a good way of killing generals, at least that's what I do.
Would you want to essentially be able to dig for generals in a deck where this is a huge general, it's popular, dig for it, use it to kill it?
I mean, I love using clones to kill the new Teysa because she's been frustrating to deal with, or using it to kill a Geist the Same Trapped or whatever. I don't like figuring out how to get around dealing with them.
But now you're using the old design that was designed for the old mechanic, right? I think it's more about the space that it opens up for the new ones.
Well, what I do agree with was one of the biggest benefits is they agreed that they were not going to make any more legendary lands except for Eye of Ugin, in which they explained.
And those are clunky too.
And they clunky, yeah. And because there's a lot of reasons to do legendary lands and stuff, and so they think that this is definitely going to be a massive advantage for using legendary lands and being able to print them again, which they're excited about. And
that's cool, man.
I can see that. Also, it also makes sense with lands because flavor-wise, you don't actually have that land on your battlefield. It's your connection to that land. And so, 2 players can definitely draw from the same space in the universe, but you can't have this. You can't have Geist the Saint Trapped fighting on both sides of the battlefield for both players. There's only one of them.
No, but I'm saying
he's not an Arbor Elf. There aren't a million of them running around.
Listen. I'm not saying that the flavor is reduced, but the bonus and gameplay that you're getting out of it's so much nicer. And you want from the design perspective of the people who make the cards. Yes, it makes
it easier on R&D, but I'm not here to make it easier on R&D. I'm here to enjoy and play the game.
No, it's not.
I still feel like
I think
they're
it makes
losing a lot in gameplay.
A richer gameplay is that these creatures are so recognizable. They're the emotional attachment to the player is to these legendary creatures, and suddenly their value is so much less just because the other person can do stupid gimmicky stuff that isn't really inherent in the rules text. It takes a lot from a player's stage to learn that you can just copy my guy and then he dies, and this epic dude that I have this huge emotional thing to is useless now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's learning the game, and I also don't feel bad to you because your huge, big, giant guy was probably beating me in the face, and the reason my clone exists is so that I can clone my big or your big creature and reestablish force there.
And I think perhaps you can even open clone design space. You can put more aggressively costed clones, or maybe different types of clones that are more fun to play with, as opposed to the 3 blue copy target creature, whatever. I mean, it's just I think it's interesting
I
at the very least.
Do you think
maybe I'm just really holding on to the old
like,
rules, but
instant
I don't. I'm not a fan.
And also, I think it's a misconception that games with less pieces are easier to play. Like some of the hardest games, like Go, chess, they have very very finite amount of pieces and very simple rules. But they're some of the hardest games to master.
I mean, I agree.
I don't think that
I'm
simplifying rules makes the game easier or less less complex to. Like, there's huge complexity in Go and chess.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just like one small rule. I feel like it was just.
But it's a very noticeable rule.
Yeah.
Like when it comes up on the battlefield and when you're playing, you're gonna notice it.
Yeah.
It's not like the next rule we'll discuss, but.
The next rule is the sideboard rule, which is.
I hate that.
I love this rule.
It's just like. All right, I'll read it out.
I think this rule makes so much fucking sense.
I get why so you don't get the freaking lose in a high tournament game.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it's just like okay, yeah, all right, whatever. It's your main deck is still 60 or more cards, but your sideboard is now up to 15 cards. Additionally, you are not required to swap cards between your main deck and sideboard on a 1-for-1 basis. For games 2 and 3 and so on, as long as your main deck is 60 or more cards, and your sideboard is no more than 15 cards, you're good. It just, you can't have more than 60 cards turn round 1, and your deck can have up to 15 cards. There's never a time where you're not gonna want to play like less than 15 cards. Like, oh, maybe I should only have 10 cards in my sideboard, so I'm less flexible against all of them.
I think it helps like a lot of beginning and new players that are just throwing cards together in a sideboard and want to have a few cards in their sideboard, but don't have a full 15 card sideboard.
I don't think you get DQs and FNM for this even, but it's just nicer, just easier. Like, all right,
but
here's DQs, GPs.
Here's why they invented the rule. Basically, a lot of players would get DQ'd because they would sideboard.
Deck checks, they fuck it up.
Yeah, they would sideboard in 6 cards and take out 5 by accident because they forgot to take out an extra card or whatever happened. And so they would run a 61 card deck DQ'd if they got caught. So, under the new rule change, that's not a DQ. Now, that's not to say that you can start with a 60 card deck and then go down to 59 cards and have 16 cards in your sideboard, so you can only increase your deck size. Which, in all honesty, we all know that you want to...
99.99999 in repeating percent, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, you want as slim and mainstream of a deck. I mean, unless you're running Battles of Wits or something. Everyone runs a 60 card deck. You don't want to run a 61 card deck. Every once in a while, you'll see a Pro Tour list where someone runs a 61 card deck.
But it's just like,
weird.
If you want to be a smartass, you can now. And I like that.
I mean, yeah, if you want to be a jackass,
then do it.
You literally could just run like 4 or 5 lands in your sideboard and then 10 more cards and then throw or 5 lands and 10 more cards and just literally turn your card into a 75 card deck for, I don't know.
Let's say in a fucked up meta, there's one deck that does land destruction and you just want that one extra land just to get you there to run 61. It's your call. I wouldn't do it per se, but I don't know.
I mean, this rule is not the rule I thought we were going to address next. This rule doesn't really bother me. I think it's nice.
I think it's easy. It simplifies it.
I don't really care. I think basically
it's a good change.
This is to help new players and cover the ass of someone who makes a human mistake. So you know what?
Yeah.
Fine. That's cool.
And it gives options.
It gives options.
Even though they're not good options, it's still options.
It gives not good options, so it's not breaking the game or like doing stupid stuff, but it gives options, which always is like, and I love my options.
Yeah.
Like my options.
The next 2 rules are small ones. Indestructible is promoted to a keyword.
Makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, and unblockable is not a keyword.
And unblockable has been defined as never going to be a keyword because there's many forms of unblockable, including like Island Walk is very different than cannot be blocked by creatures with lower power and stuff. So they're keeping those all separate. It's not a keyword. A lot of people had assumed up to this point that indestructible is a keyword. I think I did.
It was. Yeah. I mean, I think there's another like new player thing is that sometimes the word indestructible is not clear what you mean by it because there's like your negative counters. Does that work? Does it just damage work? Does destroy effect?
In fact, indestructible was very intuitive, and they said because that indestructible basically means the same thing as it does in the English. It's you can't be destroyed. In fact, it's only going to hurt new players because they're not going to have all that extra text. It's literally just going to say indestructible, and
but the whole point now is that when something is keyworded, it gets explained in core sets.
Oh, does it? Well,
that's what core sets does.
Well, because when it's keyworded, it's not explained on other cards outside of core sets.
If it's a lot of rules text,
yeah,
then the keywords typically won't get explained. But right now, indestructible is never
because flying is not explained anymore. There are cards that used to explain.
I think some keywords are just
Death Touch is not explained anymore, but it used to be.
I think some cards do have Death Touch explained actually.
Well, those are probably like you said, core sets. Basically, and you still have to explain to newer players that indestructible means that you can't be destroyed. That does not mean you cannot be sacrificed. It does not mean you can't have -1 counters and blah 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 blah. But learning the game, indestructible. We all know what it means. Whatever rank they want to give the word, they gave the word.
Yeah. I think the simplifying it for new players is great. For the game.
Absolutely.
Last rule change, not a fan of. This is the one I thought we were going to talk about.
I'm not a fan of either. The land play rule.
So basically,
this was dumb.
I think it takes away from the complexity of the game and little interesting tricks that people are doing.
Yeah.
But basically, you may play 1 land a turn. Nothing new. You play a card that says you may play an additional land a turn. So you play your land, you play an additional land, and then all good. So what some people did, and under this, is you play a land, you play your additional land, you bounce, say it's a creature, bounce it back to your hand, replay it. You now can play another additional land because you can play an additional land per turn, and all those effects go away. What it is now is you keep track of how many lands you played a turn, and basically it gets rid of all this shenanigans and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean because in a normal turn you can only play 1 land a turn, and now you have a counter called the land play. So you always start your turn with 1 land play, and then you can play a card that gives you an extra land play for that turn. So you have 2 land plays. But if you bounce it, you bring it back, you play 2 lands, you bounce it and come back, you don't get an extra land play because you already played the 2 land plays that you had for that turn. So you can't exploit little stuff in certain cards, and I really don't like that. I like it when you are able to exploit little things and abuse cards a little bit, and it kind of takes that fun away.
I mean, this really affects such a small percentage of the game.
It does.
But it's still
I have a couple of questions for you guys for this one.
Okay.
Do you think that it is because they're going to print more of this kind of stuff for future sets that they wanted to just get it out of the way now?
I feel like it was annoying some judge or something. There's a lot of rules that are actually implemented because they've been annoying. So I think this came down to the few times that it comes up where judges are like, all right, explain your turn to me again.
Yeah, but I'm saying...
Because there's 2 players arguing about their lands.
Does this open space for play an extra land as turn cards?
No, I don't think it does because it never affected that to begin with. All it does is it makes it easier for the judge to do it. Because I don't think R&D was sitting there going, oh god, there's all these bounce effects. We got to be real careful about these play extra turns. I think it came up somewhere.
No, I'm saying, now that you couldn't exploit it, does it make it so that...
But I don't think it was...
we're going to see...
I don't think it was ever an R&D...
That's my question to you guys. Do you think we'll see more cards?
Yeah,
I don't think we'll see any more than we would have before because I don't think it was ever an R&D's head that this was getting exploited.
More or you saw Urban Evolution,
which
is it's just a fine card.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that had nothing... There was no creature in effect. That was a static effect of the sorcery.
I mean, you think that was like a test run for maybe one of those newer cards? I don't know. I'm just asking.
I mean, maybe they'll print a creature in M14 that says you can play an additional land.
I don't think so.
The expansion set. Okay, play an extra land this turn.
I really don't think so. I think it's never been in RD's mind that someone, in fact, maybe someone in RD was playing like that. I think what it came down to is I feel it's been frustrated enough judges and been complained about in enough meetings that they addressed it just because they're like, it's not worth the headache of dealing with. I think it's not worth the headache of dealing with judges and going back and having people
I still think it opens design space too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think R&D ever cared about that.
No, of course I'm more than positive they've definitely thought about making more into this mechanic one day or another.
It's an interesting...
Well, yeah, but I don't think their concern was ever, do we bounce? I'm sure there are people that are in R&D that were pro using that abuse trick that wanted to make more cards specifically to abuse things like that.
Mm-hmm. But honestly, I think this might be a note into they're going to print some more cards like this that you can draw an extra or play an extra land that turn.
You might be right that it might be a note,
like a preemptive,
because the reason it came up is because they have cards in the works for it. But
like what if they had a format, like their future league, whatever, that they had this card and they were like, well, like this could really be abused.
Yeah.
In these Eternal formats.
So I don't think it
Bounce
means that
stuff.
it's opening up space anymore. Is that it may have come up because they were already considering and putting in these cards.
Also, by doing that, it opened up the space for that card to be released.
I guess.
I mean, M14 is being spoiled right now, and maybe we'll see a card or two like that, pop up, or maybe
And
in
the green,
Theros.
blue, whatever.
Yeah.
No, green. It'll be in green.
Yeah.
The only
green,
blue part of Urban Evolution was the draw.
Draw, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the end of the rule changes. I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching, guys, or if you're listening, thanks. We're doing a visual podcast now, so we'll probably We'll try to keep it more updated and
More concise sometimes.
yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how it goes. But follow us on Twitter at Meadowbrook MTG.
Mhm.
That's what it was, man. It's been so long since we've been on the Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook too at Meadowbrook Magic. We'll post links in the description because we have YouTube now. So and make sure to send us your decks because we're planning to do another Brews Day Wednesday soon, and we'd love to talk about your decks.
And we'd love to even flesh it out if we can, or if it's a cheaper deck, like Pauper would be fine.
Yeah, any kind of deck you want to talk about, you want to show us your deck, your new standard deck, or your Pauper deck, Commander, like anything. It'll be, it's fun to talk about.
Except maybe cubing, maybe even game recordings or deck text, live deck text.
Yeah, we're probably gonna upload our YouTube, update it some more with some deck text, some games and stuff. We might even record some Friday Night Magic stuff.
So basically what we're getting at is hopefully there's a lot of new content coming towards you.
Good content.
Stay fresh, enjoy, and comment about how wrong Ashwin is about everything I've told him.
Yeah, make sure
Tell Jordan to fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Boom!
Yeah. But make sure to comment, subscribe, like, all of that. And see you next time.